via Twitter, and the Twitter handle that you can do that is KTN News, or you can also tweet me directly, and that's at Michael G. Gitonga. It is campaign time and political statements are being made left, right and center. Just yesterday, the rift between Jubilee and KANU was rekindled, with KANU warning Deputy President William Ruto to stop attacking KANU leaders lest they pull out their support for Uhuru Kenyatta candidacy. In West Pokot, Jubilee leaders told KANU leaders not to attend President Uhuru Kenyatta's rallies set for today in the county. These cracks in around Jubilee come just a day after the ruling party got some rare support from Ukambani, with National Assembly Minority Leader Francis Nyenze and Kitui Senator David Musila campaigning for Uhuru. Well, are these just political statements, or what is the exact point and what's going on? In studio to help us with these political turns and perspectives, I'm joined by Murang'a Senator Kembe Gitura, ODM Senate candidate for Nairobi Edwin Sifuna, and Kiambu Governor running mate Dr. James Nyoro. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us in the political point. Let me start with you, Edwin Sifuna. Is there trouble in the camp, NASA? We have some major supporters of Wiper basically throwing in the hat for, or throwing their weight behind the president.
First of all, I am aware that Senator Musila has since clarified that he was taken out of context. I know that Nyenze has had a difficult time with the NASA choice for president, and that he's bound to, from time to time, throw the sort of tantrums that we see him throwing. Personally, I don't attach any weight on Nyenze, simply because even his own performance as a minority leader in the House has been quite wanting, and I really doubt the kind of influence he has in matters of Ukambani politics. So that he is someone that I believe that can be safely ignored, just the way he's been ignored all through his tenure as a minority leader.
All right, let me come to you, Kembe Gitura, and obviously the opposition maybe are downplaying that. Do you think there is cause for alarm in NASA?
There must be. Well, my friend Sifuna can say that that it is tantrums, but Nyenze is the leader of the minority in the National Assembly, period. And he's held that position of trust from his own party. And so to say that he's just throwing tantrums, he's saying nothing, or that he has no following. There is no elected leader who doesn't have a following. It doesn't matter how many, but every elected leader has a following, and every single vote counts. So the fact that Honorable Nyenze made a public statement that he's supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee government is a major statement. People can try to downplay it, but it's a major statement, and they may try to make their camp appear like it's nothing, but they know it's major.
All right, Dr. Nyoro, your comments and your thoughts on what is going on, and also to mention that there also seems to be trouble in Jubilee with some KANU members being asked not to attend or not to go for it. There just seems to be trouble.
Let me start with the first one. If you look at Ukambani politics, I don't think it's as easy as my friend Sifuna is trying to explain. In one meeting, you have two prominent leaders, and they speak in one voice. Nyenze particularly spoke in Kikamba. It was being translated, and he was very explicit. He even went on to say, we have to appreciate certain things that Jubilee has done. In the same meeting, Musila, whom I respect a lot, and is very widely respected in this country, goes on to say, erect so-and-so and erect so-and-so. Musila has been in provincial administration. He knows when he's being quoted and misquoted. If you look at the bigger picture of Ukambani politics, you see that there's a lot of division. Just look at Machakos and see what is happening at Waipa and Mutua. Extend that to Makueni and Machakos. So I wouldn't really underestimate that statement. And whenever we politicians make a statement, there is a lot that you are not saying. In fact, what you are saying is only 10% of what there is. So I wouldn't underestimate that. I think from our own statistics, we do know that we are counting Ukambani to be a Jubilee stronghold. So these guys...
Just based on those statements?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, these are things that are starting to arise as the chicken come home to roost.
You know, Mike,
we have statistics of what is happening in Ukambani. So just wait and see. And my friend
and
here
I guess any politician would want to push for that.
Let me just say one thing. The weight of a statement from a person is something that can actually be estimated. This is not the first statement from Honorable Nyenze. I remember his most infamous tantrum when he called a press conference at Parliament buildings to say that if it is not Kalonzo Musyoka who's, given the flag bearer for NASA, that would be the end of NASA. You remember, and it was very categorical, and it brought a lot of storm in a teacup, and people, of course, from the Jubilee side wanted to make a mountain out of a molehill. Mm-hmm. And this is the exact same situation. I can guarantee you that nothing will come of the statement by Honorable Nyenze. I do not dispute that every elected leader has a small number of following, or at least a number of followers. Everyone has a number of followers. But is it substantial enough for us to be crying that there's a crisis in Ukambani? That's why I'm saying this is somebody who we can safely ignore, that there is nothing that will come out of his statements, just like the previous.
Would you say the same for Busira?
The point here, I think the point to try and underscore here is that these are leaders, right, respected in Ukambani. Mm. And these are leaders who've been very, very staunch supporters of Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. And they stood with him through thick and thin. But the very fact that they will not be able to stand up in public, and I don't know whether you would like to use the word challenge, and say to his face and to the face of Wiper that we've withdrawn our support. We can see what Jubilee has done, and that's the reason we support President Uhuru Kenyatta and his government. And these are people who have been, as it were, a backbone, the strength of Kalonzo Musyoka, and we know them. Senator Musila, for instance, is a man for whom I have the greatest respect. I sit with him in the Senate, and I can tell you that regardless of the fact that he's in the minority in Senate, I sit in the majority side, he's a man for whom I have got tremendous respect. Yeah, so when he makes a statement like that, or when Senator Musila goes independent, when he chooses to go independent, when he ought to have been in the mainstream of the party, that tells a lot.
Like Kabogo.
No. That tells a lot.
Will tell you
can talk about people losing ground, but I want to remind you, and this is at the risk of repeating myself, that every leader who is elected by the people, you may play it cool, but they've got following, and if you've only 5,000 followers who vote for you, or 10,000, or 100,000, that makes for a lot of difference.
Gentlemen, could it be at a time where possibly political parties need to re-look at how they're structured and what they have? Because we'll also agree that we have a huge number of independent candidates right now, both from NASA and from Jubilee. And this is because some of them feel aggrieved. Maybe, Dr. Nyoro, your comments on whether maybe political parties need to restructure. They may not be...
Well, if you ask me, I think it all started with the amalgamation of all the political parties into two major parties. And the planners for that probably did not realize the loophole that was there within the timing of IEBC. I think the reason why a lot of people are independent candidates is not because they are independent thinkers, or that they don't agree with the ideologies of any of these parties.
The truth is they're actually not independent.
The truth of the matter, they are not independent. Absolutely. The truth of the matter is that there was some timing issue as far as IEBC is concerned on when you would be, the nominations would be over and when nominations for independent candidates would be done. And people made use of that loophole. So if you ask me, I think we need to rethink the whole aspect of forming coalitions maybe after the elections rather than amalgamating all of these parties, because people will have freedom to move back and forth. I'm not a proponent of party hopping. I don't agree with party hopping because I do believe that I follow a party because I follow their manifesto, their ideology, and so on. But I think we should allow people to make freedom before the nomination, But then after the nomination, we lock it. So the independent phenomenon that we are seeing today is not so much because Kenya has become independent. No, it's because of that particular loophole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not true. That's not correct.
Well, I know he is independent, so...
Yes, and that's what I'd like to
I'm sure you thought otherwise before you made that statement. But let me disabuse that notion, because what you need to answer his question, what we need to have to do in the parties, it doesn't matter whether they are coalitions before or after elections. What is important is internal democracy.
Absolutely.
What is important is that the parties themselves should have elections that are credible. You were elected or nominated on a Jubilee ticket. Question is, was it free, fair, and transparent? That's the question that everybody is going to ask. And the test is going to come on the 8th of August. So you must understand where people are coming from.
No, let's go back to the ideology
I allowed
of
you
independence.
to finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. Let me finish. It's not an issue of assuming that people are stupid, or that they don't have ideologies. I mean, it's a question of saying, were you properly nominated? That's a question that you're going to answer. And now there is a window. Because it's not good to assume that because you're in a party and you can then use the structures of that party to rig yourself through the nomination. I'm not talking about you, Dr. Nyoro.
Well, I was rigged.
I'm talking.
You've been talking about
I'm not
me.
talking about you. But if you want to meet you as an example, you say you've been rigged before. Maybe you rigged this time out. So the issue that I'm making is this: that there is a window, a constitutional window, and you can say people are not independent-minded. Yes, but the fact remains that that person is coming in as an independent. Are they independent-minded? Wait until the 12th parliament is formed, then you see whether people are independent-minded or not.
Actually,
but because until the parties correct that internal democracy, until the parties allow free and fair nominations, then you're going to find, and I had the opportunity of saying this yesterday, you find that come future elections, you find more people going independent and not subjecting themselves to party nominations because until and unless there is that democracy, that free and fair nominations, then they make nonsense of the parties.
I think I want to agree with my senior, who I'll be joining, hopefully, in the Senate, that the phenomenon of independence that we see in this particular election is as a result of the nomination exercises that were conducted in both coalitions, and it is something that is conceded that the nominations exercise was a sham in both coalitions. Now,
left a lot to be
if you
decided.
look at the number of independents, for instance, and ask yourselves where these people have come from, a large majority of those people, or a bulk of them, are actually from political parties. They are not original independents. And it is as a result of the shambolic exercises that Senator Kembi has referred to. I know that there's going to be an opportunity in 2022 because I can guarantee you, for instance, from past experience, that the Jubilee coalition will be no more. I think after, on the 9th of August, that vehicle will be disbanded just in similar fashion to the PNUs that we've seen, and that there will be opportunity. And given the experience that people have had, I doubt that there will ever be such a serious move to amalgamate parties the way that we've seen under one roof and shepherd everybody in there when there is no guarantee that there's going to be fairness. So you see, I am, surprised when Senator Kembi talks about the independents like Musila. Yet we had very staunch allies of Uhuru Kenyatta in the style of the governor for Kiambu.
You keep on referring to governor
because
for
you're
Kiambu.
here.
Don't you have another example?
Okay, there's Senator Kembi here, who is also a very staunch supporter of government, but they have found themselves outside. I mean, it doesn't mean anything that Musila is an independent.
I think we are losing the point here. We are losing the point because, if you look, I'm not saying that the main political parties are democratic. You have to remember that I had to exit out of TNA before nomination last time. I did not participate in TNA nomination because I argued from within that there was no internal democracy, and therefore I exited out of it before nomination. And that was on principle because I said, and there was still party hopping, because I said I'm not going to participate in nomination in a party that I am seeing that I'm not being given a free and fair chance. So let me make this point, which we are contradicting here. The point is there has not been internal democracy in these major parties. As a result of that, there is mushrooming of all these small parties. But we made a mistake this time around. We said, let's amalgamate the small parties. At the same time, there was a loophole because of the timing of IEBC, okay? So the small parties, the hopping that was stopped came in because of independent, okay, the independent phenomena. So I think we are not contradicting ourselves here. We are saying the first thing that we need to do is to improve on internal democracy so that these parties, the bigger parties, can freely conduct free and fair elections.
So we generally agree that there is no internal democracy in the parties,
which has resulted into small parties
and independent
in the past, but now has moved to independent,
okay,
which has abused the constitution because independent means you are independent, a candidate. You can't participate in a nomination.
So are you
and then be called yourself independent.
Okay. I don't know what Dr. Nyoro is really trying to get to by using the word abusing the constitution. I don't know whether it's read the constitution.
I have.
Well, you don't appear to have, because the constitution allows for you to run as an independent candidate if you are not a member of a party for 3 months preceding the elections. That's what it says. And there is no, that's what it says, period.
But you are a staunch supporter of Jubilee. You stood on Jubilee, or for all the time that you are in the Senate. No, let's follow this. For all the time that you are in the Senate,
I don't like it.
You stood on Jubilee, and then all of a sudden you say, I think I'm an independent-minded person.
Dr. Nyoro, I don't like getting into repercussions, because when you speak, I allow you to speak and finish what you have to say. But I think you need to look at the Constitution and understand it, right? And you must draw a distinction between being a staunch supporter of Jubilee or being a staunch supporter of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. There is a whole world of difference. I still support President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and his government 100%. That is very different from saying that I support Jubilee Party. Jubilee is a party. Like Sifuna says, maybe next year it will not be a party. Maybe it will metamorphose into something else. So you must draw those distinctions, and you must don't use words like abusing the Constitution because it has got clear provisions. But the point I want to make is this. You draw that distinction first and foremost. The important thing is that personally I believe in big, strong parties myself. Parties like the ANC, although it's going through its problems in South Africa, not the ANC here, the ANC in South Africa. I believe in big parties like what we have in Tanzania, Chama cha Mapinduzi, because if you have a party that evolves over a long period of time, then it has ideology. That's how you have Democrats and Republicans in America. But the important thing is that everybody must get an equal democratic chance within that party. So that if it goes through nominations, then you feel that you've lost fairly. And that's all people ask for. That's all people ask for. There is nothing else. There are no favors. Nobody is seeking favors from anybody. And that is why, fortunately, there is that window of independent. And when I see the people that purport to have been nominated fairly by whether NASA or Jubilee, chest thumping,
I want allow him to finish.
I like to remind them that the determinant date is the 8th of August. And then we must have the hope that the IEBC is going to conduct free, fair, and democratic elections.
Okay, and I know, Sifuna, you want to jump in there, but I want to establish one thing.
No, just a minute. The distinction that I believe Honorable Nyoro was trying to make is between the spirit and the letter of the law. That Senator Gitura is right. That
as per the law,
yes, in black and white, the law says 3 months you can, run as an independent. But we must understand that laws are made to cure certain mischiefs that we've experienced as a country. There's a reason why the law on party hopping, for instance, was introduced in the House. There's a reason why all these, regulations around political parties were brought on board so that we are able to strengthen our political parties, so that we are able to grow them. But the reality on the ground is different. The experience has been different. So I know that it might not be in the spirit of the law for people who participated in nominations in political parties to claim to be independents, that they are using the letter of the law as opposed to the spirit. And that is the only distinction that is there. But it is understood that the independents are correct by law in black and white, but that the spirit behind the introduction of the law.
But don't you understand where they're coming from, given that we've
absolutely
agreed that political parties do not have internal democracy?
I do, and I have actually stated clearly that I agree with the position of my senior senator here, that if we are going to see free and fair nominations in political parties in future, then we are going to have fewer problems with the independence. And I'm sure that the 12th Parliament, one of the things that they will seek to do is to close that gap that Honorable Nyoro has talked about on the submission dates of papers for nominations of independents.
Okay, Dr. Nyoro, then why are you in a party that, first of all, does not have internal democracy? Because then it means even your nomination then is in question.
No, I'm not in TNA, am I? I'm in Jubilee. I said I exited from TNA. I didn't say I exited from Jubilee.
TNA ceased to exist.
No, it ceased to exist.
But you're in Jubilee.
And now I believe in Jubilee. I rejoined, and remember I exited, and I went to NAC, and I contested in NAC. But then I rooted Jubilee, and I then resigned and joined Jubilee. Okay? And I can tell you, with facts and figures, and the senator here needs to know.
So do you believe that Jubilee
No, can I finish? That we in Kiambu, I don't know about Muranga, we in Kiambu conducted free and fair nomination. Go ask Wanjiku, and you are abusing Wanjiku by saying that, you read somebody, and he used the term purported. We in Kiambu, I can tell you, you can go and ask. We did free and fair nomination.
Yes, sir.
That's a good statement to make, and I don't want to be involved. Incidentally, and let me make this clear. I have no issue at all with people who claim to have been nominated properly. I have no issue at all. In Jubilee, in NASA. The only issue I have with them is that they must allow the people who feel they were not, that it was not free and fair, let them go to the test on 8th of August. So don't tell me about Wanjiku, that there was no rigging, because go and ask Wanjiku. Because Wanjiku is an innocent, or supposedly innocent woman, or the person she is said to be, but it doesn't mean that Wanjiku has or knows everything. You see, Wanjiku is supposed to cast a vote, one vote. Wanjiku is not supposed to go around polling stations casting 10, 20, 40 votes in one day because there is no system. You see? But when Wanjiku is misused like that, then that is what we call lack of internal systems.
Okay, but let's also, Edwin Sifuna brought out something here, and it's to do with the letter of the Constitution. Majority or a good number of the independent candidates that we have, and I'd like you now to speak for yourself, are there simply because they feel aggrieved, but not because they're independent per se. When we talk about an independent candidate, what exactly are we talking about? Are we saying that you have ideologies that are different from the existing political parties? Are we saying that you have a frame of mind that's possibly not at par with the other political parties?
You can then ask Dr. Nyoro, who told you that he was in TNA, then moved on to NAC Kenya or NAC, I don't know, then now he's in Jubilee. Ask him what was the ideology of the specific parties that he hoped from before coming to Jubilee. Because this is the issue. What is the ideology of that party that he's come to? Or is it just in a big bus because it's the one that appears to be moving in the right direction? These are the issues that you ask yourself. Everybody at the end of the day is supposed to be independent-minded. Even when you're sitting in Senate or in National Assembly, you don't just vote because there is a vote being called. You analyze, you debate, and then you make your mind on what you want to do with that bill, with the debate. That's what we call a vote. And if you come to the Senate, you find that a lot of things that we do are bipartisan. We don't just vote on party lines. We vote because you are convinced that this is the right thing to do, not for yourself, but for this great nation. So everybody at the end of the day ought to be independent-minded, because if you are not, then you are shoved from place to place and you never are able to make your own decision. You vote, you become a voting machine, and that is the wrong thing to do.
Okay.
And I think for me, that is where the problem is. Because if you read the Jubilee manifesto, or at least that time, the TNA manifesto, first of all, the reason why I had joined TNA and why I'm in Jubilee is because I believe in the policies that are articulated within the Jubilee thinking and within the Jubilee manifesto, which is social capitalism. I believe in making sure that you have entrepreneurs and you have a system that distributes wealth using whatever privileges or whichever policies from those who have and those who haven't. You have free access to education. I believe in that. I do not believe in a system that redistributes wealth. So, first and foremost, there are some ideological differences. They may be very minute. We are hoping, and with people like the senator here, who's actually been out of the country and have seen democracy in other countries, we are hoping that this ideological thinking in these parties will become much more clearer and much more defined, so that if you go to a party, you are not going to become a voting machine. You are going because you believe that you are going to articulate the ideology of that party. Now, because it is weak at this point, that is why you can jump, because to be independent, like in the UK, you are either Labour or you are Conservative. To be independent is that you don't believe in either of these ideologies. Okay? In the US elections, you had a group that was disagreeing with both the Republicans and Democrats, and they participated in the elections because they did not attribute themselves to any of these policies. What we need to do as a country, as we move forward, is to expound and make it explicit what the ideologies of these parties are.
You know, I think one of the things that we must make clear, and, you know, I'll try to make it clear, because the definition of independent in our laws is simply restricted to non-membership to a political party. It is not a reference to your state of mind or your independence. People join political parties for a myriad of reasons. And many politicians will want to tell you, oh, I believe in the ideology of a party. And when you ask them what is that ideology, they do not know what that ideology is. People are in political parties for different reasons. My own take is that, and I know, for instance, in ODM, a party leader has a different position on independence. Personally, I know that if you are confident that the nomination process was free and fair, like my brother Nyoro will claim, then you have absolutely no reason to fear the independence at the election. Because if you beat these people at the nominations, which was a small election, you should be able to beat them at the grand election. I mean, so you see efforts, for instance, in places like Uasin Gishu, where the deputy president is bearing down on an independent to step down. Why is he afraid of Buzeki's candidature? Let the guy run, and if it is indeed true that Mandago is the most popular candidate, he will win, the same as Kiambu. I mean, you beat Kabogo in what you describe yourselves as a free and fair election, then you should not even bother what Kabogo does.
Time waits for no man, so let me start with you, Kembi Gitura, on your closing comments and possibly the space that has been created democratically for independent candidates, despite the fact that there are some who feel that independent candidates are just, would say, people who feel they're wounded and just want to prove a point. But maybe your closing comments.
I don't think the question is one of feeling that you are wounded. No. We go back to the same thing, and I think Sifuna has made a tremendous statement that these people who claim to have been properly nominated, whether in NASA or in Jubilee, right? They know that the election is on 8th of August. Let them stop chest thumping. Let them wait. If they won fairly, they will win again fairly on 8th of August.
8th of August.
And that's the bottom line. Okay. So let them stop bastardizing and chest thumping and abusing the independents, because if they don't think we have an ideology, let's wait. When you get to the various houses that we want to go into, you see, like I said, and this is at the risk of repeating myself, we are not stupid. I get to the house, I told you I support the president, right? And that I'm not changing. Okay. That's a position I've taken. All right. So when I go to the house, I'll be able to make an independent mind on the several issues that will be there, but supporting the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta, which I believe is going to be re-elected. Okay.
At this point, I want to have our viewers on KTN Home basically start with life and style, and we just get our closing comments as we continue. So for those of us on KTN Home, this is where life and style begins. Those of us on KTN News, we continue. All right, sorry. Dr. Nyoro, your closing comments.
Thank you very much. I think I want to make it very explicit that I am personally not against independent candidates. I am not at all. I think two issues. One,
and there's nothing to
like
fear.
everybody is saying, 8th of August is coming. It happens to be my birthday. I think we will get the birthday gifts that we have invested in. So I am not worried of independent candidates at all. What I'm talking about is a growing democracy. We should have the spirit of what you are calling independent, and we should be very clear in our mind on why we are doing what we are doing. We know very well why we have more independent now than we had before. And I don't have any problem with independence. We are facing them in Kiambu. We will thrash them more than we thrashed last time. I have no fear at all. Let's wait and see what will happen on it.
All right, thank you very much, Edwin Sifuna.
Michael, I think I would be remiss if I did not send condolences to the people who have lost families in the tragedy in Embakasi South. It is quite heartbreaking that these things continue to happen. I remember last time a building collapsed in Huruma. There was a directive that there would be an audit of all the buildings, residential buildings in Nairobi, and that all the buildings that were found to be, not structurally sound would be brought down. I want to once again appeal, and I will make this appeal directly to the governor of Nairobi, who's my colleague in ODM, that this needs to end. That right now he must put his foot down and ensure that these stories of building collapsing come to an end. So condolences to the families, and we hope that we will have definitive action from all concerned quarters, including the National Construction Authority and the county government of Nairobi, that we put these things to an end.
Or possibly replace the governor.
That will start another debate, which you don't want to do that right now because of time. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. And that's a political point. And whether you're in a political party or independent, well, the verdict is going to be done on the 8th of August. So that's where we leave it at that. So we'll take a short break. When we come back, we've got some news updates for you and also another interview lined up for you.